At 4:30 a.m. local time, somewhere in the northern Arabian Sea, a U.S. naval vessel moves through the black water under strict light discipline. No white deck lights, no unnecessary voices, only the faint red glow inside the Combat Information Center and the steady mechanical hum of a ship that knows exactly where it is, even when the sea around it has vanished into darkness. At the sonar station, one operator leans closer to his screen, a possible transient. No one repeats it, no one has to. The contact is weak, faint, almost swallowed by layers of ocean noise and the rolling hiss of the vessel's own movement. It appears for 2 seconds, then disappears. Not a merchant propeller, not random marine life. Something mechanical, something controlled. The operator adjusts the gain, watches the display, and waits. Then it returns. Same bearing, different range. This time the sound is cleaner. A narrow trace moving just beneath the thermal layer, where cold and warm water divide the sea into invisible walls, bending sound in ways that can hide a submarine from anyone not listening closely enough. On the bridge, the officer of the deck keeps his eyes forward. Calm sea, steady wind. Visibility almost gone beyond the ship's own shadow. On the surface, everything appears normal. Below the waterline, the situation has changed. CIC, sonar. Reacquired possible submerged contact, bearing 086. The report is calm, controlled, and professional. Inside CIC, heads turn, but nobody rushes. This is how serious moments arrive aboard a naval vessel, quietly, as a thin line of sound in a headset, deep in the night. The tactical action officer steps closer to the display. Classify. Too early, the sonar operator replies. Contact is intermittent, slow machinery signature, could be diesel-electric. Could be. The phrase hangs in the room for less than a second. Then another operator goes still. Second transient. A new bearing. Farther off the port quarter. Not crossing, not random, not surface traffic. 2 possible submerged contacts. 2 different bearings. Both beneath the layer. Both quiet enough to remain hidden from anyone careless. Both moving in a stretch of water where nothing should be this close to a U.S. naval vessel without being identified, tracked, and understood. The tactical action officer does not raise his voice. Rebuild the picture. Passive only. No active. I want trend lines. Across the room, watchstanders begin feeding the data into the undersea plot. Bearings, timestamps, estimated movement. Now, no one speaks more than necessary. The air inside CIC changes. It feels tighter, sharper, less forgiving. On the bridge, the captain arrives without ceremony. He does not ask what is happening. He reads it in the posture of the watch team before anyone says a word. Captain on the bridge. The officer of the deck gives the update. Possible submerged contact detected by sonar, sir. We are now tracking 2 intermittent contacts. The captain steps toward the darkened bridge window. For a moment, he sees only his own ship cutting through black water. Then he turns slightly toward the sound-powered phone. CIC, Captain. Confirm 2. Intermittent but trending, Captain. We are evaluating. That is enough. No alarm sounds. No one runs. No dramatic shouting. Only the first quiet tightening of the ship's entire crew. The captain gives the order. Set enhanced undersea watch. Keep emissions controlled. I want maneuvering options ready. Aye, sir. Down in sonar, the first contact sharpens again for just a moment. Blade count unresolved, machinery noise low. Careful. Whoever is down there is moving with discipline. 12 seconds later, the second contact appears again. A different acoustic fingerprint, similar behavior. And that detail matters. 1 submarine can be following. 2 submarines can be forming a pattern. The undersea plot begins to reveal something more serious than simple proximity. The contact on the starboard side is not just moving alongside the ship. It is turning inward through small, patient adjustments. The contact on the port side is farther out and moving more slowly, but its course is shifting just enough to suggest coordination, not coincidence. The sonar supervisor studies the board for a moment, then makes the call. Sir, they may be shaping. The tactical action officer looks up. Say again. They're not just passing through. Bearings indicate both contacts are adjusting to us. Now the room becomes even quieter. A naval vessel can respond to what it can see. Aircraft overhead, surface craft on radar, movement across the horizon. But submarines are different. They operate where sight ends. Below the light, below the surface, below the first instinct to react. They let the ocean hide their presence until the picture is already changing. And at 1:49 a.m., this U.S. naval vessel may have 2 of them moving into position at the same time. The captain is now inside the Combat Information Center, hands behind his back, voice steady. Assess likely intent. The tactical action officer answers carefully. Unknown at this time, sir, but the movement is not consistent with innocent passage. Nationality? Not confirmed. The captain gives a single nod, no wasted motion. Assume professional, assume coordinated. Do not assume they made a mistake. Aye, sir. At the sonar station, the operator catches the first truly clean piece of sound all night. A low mechanical whine, then a short rhythmic pulse. Controlled, compact, enough to make him straighten in his chair. He looks toward the supervisor. Sir, that's not civilian. Before the supervisor can respond, the second contact tightens its bearing again. The undersea plot updates. One contact is drawing closer toward the starboard side. The other is beginning to move ahead of the ship's projected track. This is not a simple follow. It is not a random crossing. It is positioning. The tactical action officer studies the geometry for 1 hard second, then says the words every surface sailor understands. They're building a box. No one in CIC moves quickly. They move correctly. Course options begin appearing on the display. The aviation detachment is quietly notified. The flight deck crew is told to stand by for possible helicopter operations. Sonar keeps listening. The plot keeps refining. The bridge holds steady for now. Outside, the sea remains black, calm, and indifferent. Inside, the ship understands that something is below them. 2 things, and both are getting closer. At 1:52 a.m., the sonar operator leans into his headset without taking his eyes off the trace. CIC sonar. Both contacts just closed again. Recommend immediate reassessment. The captain looks at the updated geometry, then at the tactical action officer. No fear, no drama, only decision. And in the cold red light of CIC, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. They are not passing. They are setting up. 1:52 a.m. local time. Inside the Combat Information Center, the undersea plot updates again. 2 submerged contacts, 2 separate bearings, both tightening. The starboard side contact is no longer fading in and out by accident. Its movement now has structure. Short corrections, controlled speed, careful angle changes. Every adjustment seems designed to avoid easy classification while still reducing the distance. The second contact, wider off the port side, is doing something even more concerning. It is not rushing in. It is pacing, holding back just enough to influence the space ahead of the ship. That is the moment the U.S. naval vessel stops treating the contacts as suspicious and starts treating them as a coordinated pursuit. The tactical action officer studies the geometry for 3 silent seconds. Update closest point of approach. A watchstander answers immediately. If current trends continue, starboard contact moves inside a high-risk bearing. Port contact reaches ahead of our track in under 9 minutes. The tactical action officer does not look away from the screen. So one applies pressure, the other closes the gate. No one disagrees. On the bridge, the captain receives the update through the sound-powered circuit. He stands in darkness, one hand resting lightly on the back of the chart table, eyes fixed forward into a sea that gives nothing away. Helm, come right 5 degrees. Aye, sir, right 5 degrees. The ship begins a subtle turn, not enough to signal panic, enough to test the contacts. Down in sonar, the reaction comes almost immediately. Starboard contact adjusting now. That matters more than anything. A whale does not do that. A drifting civilian submersible does not do that. Random undersea traffic does not mirror a course change in the middle of the night. 20 seconds later, the second contact responds as well. A smaller correction, slower, but just as deliberate. The captain hears the report and shows no visible reaction. But now the ship has its answer. They are being followed. Inside CIC, the sonar team begins pulling harder on every detail they have. Machinery rhythm, shaft harmonics, brief transient sounds. The first contact carries the quiet, disciplined acoustic profile of a diesel-electric submarine operating carefully on battery power or at an extremely controlled output. The second contact is similar but not identical, a slight variation in tonal spacing. Different enough to suggest 2 separate hulls, similar enough to suggest the same family, the same doctrine, and possibly the same mission. The sonar supervisor makes the call. Probable military, probable submarine contacts, 2 units. Nationality? The tactical action officer asks. Not firm, but the profile is consistent with regional diesel boats. That is as far as he goes. No speculation, no dramatic guessing. Only what the ocean is giving back. At 1:55 a.m., the captain enters CIC. Everyone feels the shift before the report even sharpens. Captain, both contacts are maneuvering in response to our movements. Assessment is coordinated submerged shadowing, possibly shaping engagement geometry. The captain studies the screen. Red-lit faces. Quiet voices. Bearing lines slowly converging into a pattern no surface warfare officer would ever mistake for harmless traffic. Air support recommendation. The air detachment officer is already on circuit. Helo can be turning in under 3 minutes, Captain. The captain does not hesitate. Make it happen. Above them, on the flight deck, the ship remains almost completely dark. Only filtered deck lighting cuts thin lines through the blackness. Sailors move low and fast around the MH-60R Seahawk. Their signal wands are dim. Their voices disappear beneath the growing wash of the rotors as the aircraft comes alive. The blades begin to turn. The helicopter is not launching into a visible scene. It is launching into absence. Empty black water. No horizon, no target in sight. Only coordinates, bearings, and the understanding that somewhere beneath the surface, two submarines are moving into position. Back inside CIC, the ship makes a second maneuver. Helm, steady on new course. Engines, come up 5 knots. The destroyer pushes forward, and again the contacts respond. The starboard side submarine angles inward slightly, trying to preserve its relative position. The port side boat slows just enough to remain ahead of the U.S. ship's projected path, instead of slipping behind it. It is a patient move, a professional one. The tactical action officer said plainly. They're not just following, they're solving. That is the moment the room hardens. Because a submarine solving the geometry is not simply observing, it is building options. At 1:58 a.m., the Seahawk lifts off. The deck crew clears away as the helicopter noses out over the water and almost immediately disappears into the night. Inside the aircraft, 2 pilots and a sensor operator are already connected to the ship's tactical picture. They do not need to see the submarines. They need to help define the underwater picture. Sonobuoys are prepared. The dipping sonar checklist is complete. Weapon status is monitored. But for now, the mission is localization, not engagement. In CIC, a new bearing update flashes across the plot. The portside contact has edged even farther ahead of the ship's track. The captain sees it instantly. If the warship stays on its current line, it risks moving toward a submarine that is no longer simply trying to remain unseen. It is trying to control the space in front of the ship. Recommend further course change, the navigator says. The captain nods once. Do it. The ship turns again. Sharper this time. Sonar listens. Then it appears. A brief spike in mechanical noise from the forward contact. A tiny burst of speed. Then silence. Not panic. Repositioning. The operator looks up from the sonar stack. He's trying to recover the angle. The captain turns slightly toward the tactical action officer. That confirms intent. Aye, sir. Now the warship understands the shape of the situation. One submarine is pressing from the side, forcing decisions. The other is trying to move ahead, toward the point where a surface ship's path becomes easier to predict and the underwater geometry becomes cleaner. A surface ship at night can survive uncertainty. It cannot ignore 2 submarines forming a pattern around it. At 2:01 a.m., the undersea plot redraws again. The starboard contact is now inside a range bracket that nobody in CIC wants to see. The forward contact has shifted into a position that no longer looks like shadowing. It looks like interception. Then sonar reports the line that changes the tone of the entire ship. Contact Alpha now holds a highly favorable bearing. Recommend immediate defensive posture. The captain does not hesitate. Very well, he says, calm and almost quiet. Now we assume full engagement posture. 2:01 a.m. local time. Now we assume full engagement posture. The captain's words do not echo through Combat Information Center. They settle into it. For one beat, no one speaks. Then the room moves, not quickly, not loudly, correctly. The undersea plot is no longer a question mark. It is now a tactical problem with 2 serious answers. One submarine is pressing from starboard, holding a bearing that could force the U.S. warship into a dangerous angle. The second has moved ahead of the ship's projected track, shaping the front of the battle space like a gate waiting to close. A few minutes ago, the ship was trying to understand the contacts. Now it is trying to break their pattern. Above the water, the MH-60R Seahawk races into darkness, its rotors cutting through humid night air, nose low over a sea that looks like black glass. Inside the cockpit, the crew is already working from the same tactical picture, feeding the ship below. Bearings, trend lines, probable intercept zones. The pilot keeps his eyes outside. The sensor operator keeps his eyes on the mission. Stand by first buoy pattern. Back in CIC, the captain leans over the undersea display. I want localization. Force them to react. Aye, sir. The Seahawk reaches the first predicted box and begins the pattern. One sonobuoy drops cleanly into the dark, then another, then a third. Each one is spaced to catch movement beneath the thermal layer. Small splashes vanish instantly behind the aircraft, but their sensors come alive the moment they hit the water, listening into places the ship cannot fully hear from its own position. On the destroyer, the sonar team begins receiving new data, weak at first, then clearer. A flicker of sound from Contact Bravo, the forward boat, machinery noise, a brief disturbance in the water. Just enough to prove the submarine has shifted depth or changed speed to recover position after the destroyer's last turn. The tactical action officer sees the update and speaks quietly. He felt the move. That matters. The U.S. warship does not need the submarines to make a mistake. It only needs them to keep adjusting. Every adjustment leaves a fingerprint, a new bearing, a momentary noise spike, a clue to depth, course, and intent. The destroyer comes left again, sharper this time. Not a desperate turn. Controlled, deliberate, measured in degrees and seconds. It is the kind of maneuver that says the captain is not trying to run. He is redrawing the geometry. Sonar calls it almost instantly. Starboard contact correcting inward. Forward contact slowing, holding, now moving again. The picture sharpens. One submarine is trying to keep pressure on the ship's flank. The other is trying not to lose the forward position it has spent the last 10 minutes building. Together, they are still a serious problem. But now they are reacting instead of controlling the situation. And that is the shift. At 2:04 a.m., the Seahawk drops its second pattern farther ahead, lower along the destroyer's new line of advance. This time, the sensor operator gets a cleaner return. There, possible submerged contact crossing left to right, deeper than expected. That is contact Bravo. The forward submarine has pushed harder beneath the thermal layer, trying to use colder water to bend sound, reduce its acoustic signature, and disappear just long enough to hold position. It is a smart move, a professional one. But it reveals something important. The submarine knows it has been detected. Inside CIC, the air feels even tighter. Bravo is defensive, the tactical action officer says. He's trying to stay in the picture without exposing himself. The captain does not answer immediately. He watches the bearing lines update one more time, then turns towards sonar. What about Alpha? The sonar supervisor studies the trace. Still cleaner than Bravo, Captain. Shallower, more disciplined, but he's working harder now. And almost on cue, Alpha makes a mistake. Not a big one, not dramatic. Just a short burst of propulsion noise lasting barely 2 seconds. A little too much power, a little too much urgency. Maybe the submarine commander realizes the destroyer is sliding out of his preferred angle. Maybe he believes he still has time to recover it. Either way, the Seahawk hears it, the ship hears it. And suddenly, Alpha's hiding space gets smaller. Alpha localized tighter, the sensor operator reports from the helicopter. Recommend tighter prosecution pattern. That recommendation changes the mood immediately. The destroyer is no longer just avoiding the setup. It is now applying pressure of its own. Approved, the captain says. The Seahawk banks and turns back in, flying a tighter curve over Alpha's probable track. Another sonobuoy drops, then another. Their overlapping coverage begins to stitch together the submarine's hiding space, like a net being pulled across a dark opening. Below the surface, Alpha shifts again. This time, the acoustic trace carries more flow noise, more urgency. He is moving. The tactical action officer taps the undersea plot once. He's losing patience, or losing room. The destroyer increases speed again, just enough to complicate any solution that depends on steady course and predictable movement. Counter-acoustic measures are ready, not used, just ready. The crew understands that the next few minutes may decide whether this remains a tense undersea pursuit or turns into something far more serious. At 2:08 a.m., Bravo tries one last correction ahead of the ship's track. For a moment, it almost works. Then the Seahawk's buoy field catches him. Not fully, not perfectly, but enough. Now both submarines are in the tactical picture at the same time. Alpha off the flank, pressured and getting louder. Bravo ahead, deeper and more cautious. But no longer invisible, the two-boat squeeze that looked so dangerous 20 minutes ago is beginning to distort under the weight of U.S. coordination. Bridge, CIC, sonar, aviation. This is what the Americans do better than almost anyone at sea. Not noise, not bravado, integration. Alpha turns first. A real turn. Not drift, not trimming. A genuine change in intent. The sonar operator hears the stern swing. Water moves differently over metal. Machinery load shifts. The bearing begins to open. He's breaking out, he says. But Bravo does not. Not yet. Bravo holds. Too long. Long enough for everyone inside CIC to understand what is happening. One submarine has decided that distance means survival. The other still believes it can recover the advantage. The captain looks at the forward contact line on the display. He does not blink. He does not rush. He simply sees the truth of it. One is leaving, he says. The tactical action officer nods once, and one is still trying. Then the sensor operator aboard the Seahawk hears something through the buoy field that pulls every eye back to the tactical picture. A metallic shift. Brief, distinct, internal. Not propulsion, not random ocean noise. The report comes in calm and cold. Possible transient from Bravo, consistent with internal launch system activity. Nobody in CIC takes a deep breath. Nobody leans back. The entire ship seems to narrow onto that single line. And in that moment, the night stops being a shadow game. 2:08 a.m. local time. Possible transient from Bravo, consistent with internal launch system activity. The report lands inside CIC like a weight dropped onto steel. No one says what everyone is thinking. They do not need to. On a warship, certain sounds have only a few possible meanings, and none of them are reassuring when they come from a submarine already trying to shape the space ahead of your track. The captain's voice stays level. Execute defensive evasion profile, now. The response is immediate. On the bridge, the helmsman puts the ship into a hard turn. Not reckless, precise. A second later, the engines answer, pushing more power into the screws as the destroyer claws for speed and changes aspect at the same time. The goal is simple. Break the picture, spoil the angle, force the submarine to solve the problem all over again under pressure. Below, in CIC, the undersea plot starts moving quickly. Bravo is still ahead, deeper than before. Trying to hold the front of the battle space, where a surface ship's path becomes easiest to predict. Alpha, the starboard boat that had started to peel away, is now opening its bearing farther and farther. Whatever confidence once existed in the two submarines' squeeze is falling apart. Bravo is alone now, and that makes it more dangerous. A single submarine commander who believes the window is closing may become more determined, not less. Decoy package standby, the tactical action officer orders. The launcher crews are already ready. The destroyer is built for moments like this, not because it wants them, because it expects them. Every action has a counteraction. Every geometry has a way to be broken. At night, in black water, against a quiet diesel boat looking for one clean solution, survival belongs to the ship that can think while moving. The MH-60R Seahawk swings back over Bravo's probable track, now fully committed to the prosecution pattern. No more wide passive shaping. No more gentle localization. The helicopter tightens its orbit and begins building a direct acoustic cage, layering buoy data on top of buoy data. Inside the aircraft, the sensor operator hears Bravo more clearly than at any point in the night. He is deeper, but not calm. There is more flow noise now, more strain in the machinery, the sound of a boat trying to preserve its solution while the target refuses to stay where it should. On the destroyer, sonar confirms it. Bravo bearing shifting rapidly. He's correcting for our turn. The captain does not take his eyes off the plot. He wants the angle back. Yes, sir. And there it is, the truth of the entire encounter. Bravo is not escaping. He is not simply watching. He is still trying to regain control of the geometry. He is fighting the geometry. And that means the U.S. warship was right to shift into full defensive posture. At 2:10 a.m., the Seahawk crew drops another tight buoy string directly across Bravo's likely path. The pattern is not random. It is a wall. If the submarine pushes through it, it becomes louder. If it dives deeper, it risks losing its position. If it turns away, the opportunity disappears. For the first time all night, the Americans are not simply reacting. They are applying pressure. Contact Bravo, increasing speed, the helicopter reports. That is the mistake. Brief, measurable, enough. The acoustic signature blooms slightly across the buoy field, like a hidden shape stepping too close to a floodlight. It is still not a perfect picture. Undersea warfare almost never is, but it is enough to narrow the box one more time. The tactical action officer points to the plot. He's committing. The destroyer leans into another course change. This one is designed to do two things at once. Move the ship away from the line Bravo has been trying to hold and make any underwater solution based on the old track useless. Course, speed, aspect, noise profile, everything changes together. That is how a surface ship survives when a submarine is close to a good answer. Below the darkness on the flight deck, launch crews secure gear and brace against the rotor wash from the helicopter overhead. Inside CIC, the only light is red. The only sound is information. Bravo now offset from previous engagement bearing. Not enough. Alpha continuing to withdraw. Forget Alpha, stay on Bravo. The captain's voice cuts through the room without rising. No drama, no wasted energy, only focus. Every system on the ship narrows toward the one submarine that still believes it can turn the night in its favor. Then sonar picks up another transient, shorter this time, sharper. A metallic movement from inside Bravo's hull, followed almost immediately by a burst of propulsion correction. The room goes completely still for half a second. The tactical action officer speaks first. He's trying to finalize. The captain answers at once. Challenge him. That order moves through the ship in seconds. The destroyer's undersea warfare team shifts from pure passive tracking into deliberate pressure. A direct acoustic challenge goes into the water. Not a message made of words, a message made of certainty. You have been found, you are being tracked, your margin is gone. The effect is immediate. Bravo breaks. Not cleanly, not gracefully, but unmistakably. The submarine yaws hard beneath the layer, abandoning the line it had been trying to hold ahead of the destroyer's bow. The acoustic picture flares with turn noise and turbulence. Water rushes over the hull and control surfaces. Machinery strain rises. The geometry that looked so dangerous 2 minutes earlier begins to tear apart in real time. He's turning away, the helicopter operator calls. Confirming, sonar says. Bravo, opening bearing rapidly. That is the moment the trap collapses. The destroyer is no longer moving into Bravo's prepared intercept line. Bravo is now trying to get clear of an American ship, an American helicopter, and an American acoustic net that have taken the dark water away from him piece by piece. But the pressure does not stop. The Seahawk stays over him. The destroyer keeps maneuvering. No one assumes the threat is over just because Bravo reacted first. At 2:13 a.m., Alpha is effectively gone from the immediate picture, its bearing widening into irrelevance. Bravo remains the only real concern, and now even that concern is changing shape. No longer the one controlling the situation, not yet trapped, but close. The tactical action officer watches the updated plot redraw itself. Minutes ago, 2 submarines had nearly boxed in a U.S. warship at night. Now one is leaving, and the other has just been forced out of its best position. The captain looks at Bravo's new line and speaks without emotion. We're clear of his solution. No one celebrates, because they all see the next truth at the same time. The Americans had survived the box. Now they were building one of their own. 2:13 a.m. local time. The geometry on the screen no longer belongs to the submarines. For the first time since that first faint transient appeared beneath the thermal layer, the U.S. warship is no longer moving inside someone else's plan. Bravo, the forward submarine that had nearly shaped the space across the bow, is now opening its bearing quickly. Alpha, the boat that had been holding pressure off the starboard side, is fading wider into the dark, no longer part of the immediate picture. The 2 submarine squeeze is finished. But no one inside the Combat Information Center relaxes. Because submarines are most dangerous in the moments right after you think the situation is under control. Maintain prosecution, the captain says. Aye, sir. The destroyer holds speed, not running, not chasing blindly. Just moving forward with purpose, while every system remains focused on the last submarine still inside the tactical box. Above them, the MH-60R Seahawk continues circling over Bravo's probable path, sending back buoy data that tells a very different story than it did only minutes earlier. More flow noise, more turn noise, more urgency. Bravo is no longer shaping the situation. Bravo is trying to get out from under it. Inside the helicopter, the sensor operator adjusts his headset and listens again. The acoustic picture is still imperfect. It always is. But it is clear enough to hear a commander under pressure. A boat changing depth, altering course, pushing its propulsion just a little too hard to remain quiet. Every correction solves one problem and creates another. Every attempt to disappear leaves another acoustic mark in the water. On the destroyer, sonar updates the track. Bravo continuing to withdraw. Bearing widening. Depth variable. The tactical action officer studies the movement. He's trying to break contact through the layer. The captain gives a single nod. Don't let him do it clean. That does not mean recklessness. It means pressure. Constant, professional, disciplined. The kind that makes a submarine commander understand that one poor decision could place him at the center of an American response pattern in open water. At 2:15 a.m., the Seahawk pushes farther ahead of Bravo's escape line and drops another pair of sonobuoys. The spacing is tight, intentional, not to escalate. To deny comfort, to deny uncertainty, to deny the submarine the one thing it needs most right now. A quiet seam in the ocean to slip through. Bravo turns again. The helicopter hears it instantly. The ship hears it a second later. He rejected the gap, the sensor operator says. Exactly. Because Bravo no longer trusts the water in front of him. That is how control works in undersea warfare. Not always through impact. Not always through force. Sometimes it happens by narrowing every safe choice until the other side has only one option left. Retreat. Alpha is now little more than a fading concern on the outer plot. Whether its commander lost nerve, lost confidence, or simply realized the Americans had broken the pattern too early, it no longer matters. That submarine is out of the immediate action. Bravo is not. Bravo is still there, still trying to escape the consequences of holding position for too long. At 2:17 a.m., the destroyer makes one more measured course adjustment. Not to chase the submarine directly, but to keep the tactical picture honest and prevent any sudden return to a favorable underwater angle. The captain is not trying to create a dramatic victory. He is making sure his ship stays free, unpredictable, and in control. He is making sure the night ends with his ship intact, his crew safe, and the other side forced to remember exactly why U.S. Navy warships are so difficult to defeat. The bridge stays dark. CIC stays cold. Outside, the sea remains black and unreadable. But beneath that surface, the balance has changed completely. Bravo speed decreasing, sonar reports. That means the submarine commander has accepted the truth. The opportunity is gone. The moment is gone. And the Americans are still there. A few seconds later, the Seahawk crew catches another brief but telling change in the buoy field. Bravo is dropping deeper, angling away, and no longer trying to preserve any kind of engagement line. This is not repositioning. This is disengagement. The tactical action officer lets the update settle before he says it. He's done. The captain does not answer immediately. He waits for confirmation. Another bearing update, another depth estimate, another widening line on the screen. Only then does he give the order. Continue track, no overextension, hold pressure until he clears. That is pure U.S. Navy. No chest thumping, no wasted aggression. The objective was never noise. It was control. And control has now been taken back completely. At 2:21 a.m., Bravo's acoustic profile weakens as it moves deeper and farther from the buoy field. Not vanished, just no longer useful as an immediate threat. The Seahawk remains overhead long enough to confirm the withdrawal is real. The destroyer maintains readiness long enough to make sure it is not a deception. Only when both tracks, Alpha and Bravo, have widened beyond the danger envelope does the room inside CIC begin to breathe again. No cheering, no applause, just small movements. A jaw unclenching, a headset adjusted, a watchstander taking his first full breath in 10 minutes. The captain looks once more at the now open geometry on the screen. No box, no intercept line, no coordinated engagement bearing. Just two retreating submarines fading back into the dark water they had tried to control. Minutes earlier, they had moved in under darkness, believing the night would hide them. Instead, the night exposed them. The warship holds course. The Seahawk turns back toward the ship. The Arabian Sea swallows the evidence, as oceans always do. No debris, no visible trails, no dramatic image for a headline. Just a U.S. warship still moving forward and two Iranian submarines sent back into the deep with nothing to show for the risk they took. That is how nights like this are won. Not with panic, not with noise, with discipline, integration, pressure, timing, and somewhere below the black water, two submarine commanders now understand the same thing. They thought darkness would make the U.S. warship vulnerable. Instead, it made the U.S. Navy impossible to ignore.